work on the assumption that government's not very capable of managing almost anything, so you shouldn't put that much trust into government.
And Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul says if he is elected president, he's not going to mess around. He will slash $1 trillion from our federal budget. And last night during the debate in Nevada, he explained how. Listen.
As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money. So spending is the tax. That is the reason I offered the program to cut $1 trillion out of the first year budget that I offered.
You hear the huge applause for that idea. I'm joined now by Texas Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul. Good morning to you, sir. Good to have you here today.
Good morning.
Good. So how did you think it went last night for you and just overall in terms of the tenor of the evening?
Well, I think very well, and I think the debate was run well because I think there was a better balance on time. There are some events I don't get as much time, and I felt like I had a fair amount of time to express myself.
You know, let's go through some of the ideas that you have for cutting $1 trillion from the U.S. budget if you're elected. It would be to eliminate the Education Department and the Energy Department, the Commerce Department, Interior, and also Housing and Urban Development. Some of those would get some cuts to their agency budgets, cuts to EPA, cuts to FDA, eliminate foreign aid was also among your ideas, and to cut defense as well. You know, I guess the biggest hurdle that you would have is that the president, you know, sort of only has one say in this matter. How would you ever get all that through Congress?
Well, I mean, you have to get a consensus. If I am to be elected president, the consensus comes. The people, you know, would have to change the Congress to some degree, but a lot of members of Congress will change their attitude if they know that the sentiment with the country is in favor of what I'm talking about. And already it is demonstrated that the American people are sick and tired of what they're getting. They're out on the streets right now. I mean, we're in the midst of a worldwide debt crisis. It's a sovereign debt crisis that if we don't deal with it, it's going to be catastrophic. And I don't think people realize how serious it is, and that's why I think it takes a serious approach. And quite frankly, I think the economy is going to blossom if we just get the government out of the way and quit spending this money and let the people spend their money. So I believe this is beneficial to all of us.
Yeah, some of the most animated response came to the idea, though, of cutting the defense budget. I want to replay something from last night from Newt Gingrich and get your thoughts on what he had to say about that.
I helped found the Military Reform Caucus. I'm a hawk, but I'm a cheap hawk. But the fact is to say I'm going to put the security of the United States up against some arbitrary budget number is suicidally stupid.
Suicidally stupid, he says that would be. What say you, Mr. Paul?
Well, that would be if you ignore the budget, because the budget threat in the domestic economy is the biggest threat to our national security. Just think of how the economy brought the Soviets down on their knees. They had all the military power they wanted, but economically it was unsustainable and their empire collapsed. So I would say that he's looking at the wrong problem. And besides, it's wrong to equate military spending with defense. I don't want to cut defense. I want a better defense, a stronger defense, but I want to defend this country. I don't want to defend the borders between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I want to defend the borders between Mexico and the United States. And there's a big difference of defending this country and spending endlessly. But I think it shows a lack of understanding of economics if they think that they can spend money endlessly, that the budget doesn't matter, and that you can run up these deficits. We're in the midst of a worldwide sovereign debt crisis, and we better come to realize how serious it is.
Or it may be right in front of us, I think a lot of people would say. So let's talk about, you know, rather than going after the entitlements, you're putting your focus more on government bureaucracy and eliminating departments, eliminating government spending. How do those numbers add up in terms of getting rid of those departments? Obviously, you'd lose a lot of jobs. I saw a number in the 200,000 range for jobs lost if you cut all those departments. You know, but how does that sort of, you know, how much does that get us where we need to be, I guess, without tackling entitlements?
You do, but eventually you do, but you don't put them out immediately. A lot of those jobs are eliminated through attrition. So as the economy grows, then these numbers are absorbed. We sent 5 million people home after World War II, and the economy was blooming, and they were absorbed easily. So if you could correct the economy, a couple 100,000 are necessary for the workforce. They're transferred from government employees to private employees. But the plan that I have does not put them out immediately. It's through attrition over a 3 3, 4, 5-year period of time because it's gradual. The balanced budget comes in 3 years. But the first year, to show the whole country that we're serious, we cut $1 trillion of all this unnecessary bureaucratic spending and get us back to a constitutional government. And I think the people are with us on this. This is why there's demonstrations in the streets. What I'm trying to do is prevent the violence that we're seeing in the European streets, and just look at what's going on in Greece. So the world is threatened with the same problem as Greece is, and I'm trying to prevent that from happening here.
But isn't some of that a reaction to some of the programs that have been cut? And that's quickly, if you can, sir. But once you start cutting these things, people start to get very upset when those checks aren't coming in the mail.
You're absolutely right, and that's where the real challenge is, because right now more people are getting checks than the people who are paying. But that's unsustainable, so you have to convince people it's in their best interest that the government get out of the way, and the government's broke.
Yeah.
We're broke and we can't sustain it, but that's why I go after overseas spending first and not the entitlement. I don't cut Social Security benefits nor health care. At the same time, I can find enough cuts where we can work our way out of this. If not, everybody loses, because we're going to have runaway inflation and all these programs are going to go broke and it won't work.
Congressman, you have spent your career talking about this, and you have a bigger stage to talk about it now than you ever have before, and it's putting that all on the table. So we appreciate you being with us today, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know what he says every